What is up, creatives? Welcome back. It's Jahrell, your music technologist, here to help you master the tech you need to make music freely. Tonight, we're going to be getting directly into where I get my sounds. The question I get the most when I am, going live, or when somebody comments on a video, or even on social media, is where do you get your sounds? And I want to dive into that. And I'm going to talk about my sounds as in instruments, not physical instruments, but digital instruments like plugins and things like that. But I'm also going to talk about samples. I'm going to spend the majority of the time talking about where I get my samples and what kinds of samples I personally use. So without further ado, let's jump right into that. So let's see. Here we go. First things first. The first thing you need to know is there's a lot of good stuff on the App Store. So we're going to differentiate between sounds and samples. So when it comes to sounds, it can be anything. It can be a sample, but when it comes to like what sounds I use in my music, I do use a lot of plugins and instruments. If you're curious about what plugins and instruments I use, definitely check out my video on my go-to AUV3 plugins. That is on my channel. I'll try to remember to link it in the description after this, but definitely check that out. The App Store is a great place for things like that when it comes to music production on the iPad. There's a lot of good stuff that's inexpensive or free, and that's one of the things that's great about iPad music production. So if you're looking for good software, instruments, that is where you want to go. Another option when it comes to the sound side, and don't worry, we're going to get into samples in just a sec, but the Beatmaker Sound Store, if you're somebody who uses Beatmaker 3, which I do, then you can get sound packs out of the Beatmaker Sound Store. Now, I'll show you a little bit of what that looks like. Like I said before, they give you 3 free sound packs in the Sound Store, and it's up here in this little cart here. This is what it looks like. I have the 3 free ones, and I purchased maybe 1 or 2 others. Honestly, I haven't purchased a lot of these. I've got maybe a few purchased, but 3 of them come free, and the sounds are really good. They're really modern, and I'm really a big fan of those. So that's all I'm going to touch on for just straight up sounds, like instruments, software instruments, and stuff like that. I won't go into my favorites. I've already covered that. But let's talk about samples. So when I talk about samples, the obvious thing that comes to people's mind is Splice. And yes, I do use Splice. Let me pull up Splice real quick. So Splice is a really good option when it comes to getting good sounds, and it's for a number of reasons. There's a reason why people use it. For one, you get access to just loads and loads and loads of really good sounds, like popular sounds that people are using, and that can be an upside and a downside. The upside is you get really current sounding instruments or samples. The downside is you might find yourself with something that sounds exactly like what somebody else has, so you kind of got to walk that line when it comes to Splice. But they have really good, just a huge library. It runs on a credit system, so basically, it is a membership. You pay every month. You do not have to keep it the whole time, but I believe it starts at $7.99 a month, and that gets you a good amount of samples. I can't remember exactly how many, but it's a lot. You can go through and use those credits to purchase your samples, and your credits do roll over from month to month, so it doesn't reset every month. You get to roll those over, which I think is dope. Now, the only catch is if you do cancel your membership, obviously you can keep the sounds that you've downloaded, but the downside is you no longer have your Splice library of sounds that you can just go and download to another device all over again, which it's kind of convenient the way Splice works. Everything is stored in the cloud, and you can just instantly download all of your samples to whatever device that you want to use it on, and that's really clutch. Now, it gets a little finicky on the iPad with the Splice app. I haven't found a way to just download all of my samples right away, but you can download samples individually. But yeah, that's Splice. I'm not gonna go, I'm not gonna browse the whole library for you, but it's really good. It's worth the price. And I kind of go back and forth on whether to keep it or not. But So I wanted to get that out of the way because I knew people were gonna be like, "Oh yeah, you just go to Sounds and Splice." I get a good amount, but that's not it. So another good resource when it comes to picking your sounds is find your favorite producers, the ones that you follow that you enjoy, and find their sound packs. Most, well-known producers, and even a lot of not well-known producers, are making their own sound packs, and some of them are garbo, some of them are trash, but some of them are great. And I've, I'm going to tell you some of the ones that I recommend here in just a second. But yeah, there's a lot of producers have a free and a paid option. So a lot of times they'll have their free kit that they'll give to you, and then you can also purchase some of their packs. Mobile Music Pro is in the chat. I meant to mention Mobile Music Pro, but he's got Vortex has got a lot of I think a few sound packs at this point, 2 or 3 sound packs of his own. Definitely check out his website and cop some of those. But I'm going to show you some of mine that I use regularly, and we're going to go here. So the Count. I mentioned the Count because I did that Count challenge. His percussion is unmatched. Yeah, Mobile Music Pro says they have. Mobile Music Pro has 3 free packs and 1 paid. So that's dope. 3 free packs. That's pretty great value. Go cop some free packs, you guys. And support Mobile Music Pro. Check out that paid one. Okay. Count drums. This guy's pretty dope too. Count, like he gives a lot for free. So he's got a lot of packs in here. If you look on his website, obviously there's just a ton. But he does these things called the care package. So Count's care package, he's up to care package 5 now. Those go for $0, or he has the option to pay what you'd like. I always think that's super cool for people to be able to kick a little something for the amazingness that that the Count's cooking up. So there's also some paid packs. They are a little pricey in my opinion. Some of them 50, 40, 30, 35. But to be honest, that's not at all bad for the amount of really good percussion that he's giving you. I mean, this guy's percussion game is killer. Harrogate Cruz says, "Can we hear one or no?" Yeah, you know what? I have. Let's do this. In my Beatmaker 3, I have 1 or 2 of the Count's care packages. I'll play for you. Just a few samples off there. See what it's like. Let's see, samples, non-splice, the Count's care. Let's do care package 2. So he's got a lot of one shots, and that's what I'm into, is one shot percussion. So here's some of his stuff. He's got like some good hats in here. There's a raw snare, noisy tape clap, layer clap, couple snares. Here's a drum loop. I mean, that's fire. Yeah. Okay. He's also got random stuff like, sorry, that's really loud. Yeah, he's got stuff like this, melodic loops. He's got some other stuff like this. Pretty dope. I just like, he uses a lot of analog synths and stuff like that, so everything is just really, has a really warm feel to it. And he does a lot of stuff with tape. So, yeah, this Juno bass one shot, I've used this so many times. It's pretty killer. Yeah, typical 80s drums. Anyway, that's a few. All of his percussion is killer. Obviously, he has more than percussion, but the Count's known for his percussion. Anyway, I highly recommend anything in his store. Check that out. I know many of you have probably heard of. Oh yeah, Harrogate, no problem, man. I know a lot of you guys have heard of Kyle Beats, probably from his Drip plugin ad that shows like on every single video about music production. But yeah, he does, good producer, and he's got some sound packs himself, and you can cop those. There's obviously he has a few free ones. The one that I've been using is the Andromeda kit. I haven't even checked these other two out, Galaxy and Pluto, but if they're anything as good as the Andromeda kit, they're killer. So free packs, like shop your favorite producers. They've got free packs, and if they really give you value, support them. Give them, cop a paid kit. Gavi's a killer producer. Been following his stuff for the longest time. It's GAWVI. All of his stuff is right here. He's got a good amount of kits in here. Gavi, check him out. And then we've got, let's see, count. And then I know you guys I've talked about the MIDI chord pack before, the Unison MIDI chord pack. This is not a collection of sounds. This is a collection of MIDI. When I purchased the Unison MIDI pack, it came with the Unison loop pack as a bonus. And the Unison loop pack is all right. It's got some loops in it. It's not percussion stuff. I'm more of a percussion one-shot type of guy, but he's got some melodic loops in there. Check that out. If you're gonna go for the Unison MIDI chord pack, check out my video before about it. Yo, Anthony Flores says, Gavi, get him. That's right. Yeah. Anyway, so those are my, recommendations when it comes to like some of my favorite producers. I also have a sound pack from Beautiful Eulogy, which is a group under the label Humble Beast. Their stuff is killer. I don't think they sell those anymore, but I have some of their percussion, and it's pretty great. Next up, and I've been saving this one, but Looperman. Looperman's pretty great. Looperman is a collection of free sounds. Now, there's some benefits and some downsides to this. First of all, is Looperman, it's not one-shot percussion and stuff like that. It's not one-shots, it's just loops. So you go here for loops. I mean, I'm sure they have percussion loops, they have, all kinds of melodic, harmonic loops, but no one-shot percussion, which is what I generally look for. But if you need loops, Looperman is free. You're not going to get any trouble for using them. You just have to wade through, there's some good stuff and there's some not good stuff as far as quality goes. You just, when it comes to using free stuff that's community-based, you get, what you pay for, which in this case is free. But you'll find some gems in there. I found some good stuff before. Looperman. Check out Looperman for sure. And then, those are my top recommendations. Now, when I talk about samples, I want to be really clear when it comes to like samples and loops and things like that. Personally, this is my personal thing. I'm not putting this on everybody else, but I tend to try to lean towards one-shot samples for a reason. The loops that are the most popular, they're most popular for a reason. Your stuff's going to sound like everybody else's. And a lot of times, I've used a loop before, like a full loop, like it was a guitar loop, and I used it for the track. And then I played my track and held it up to Shazam, and it pulled up somebody else's song with the same exact loop. And it's like, dang, that's not a good feeling as a producer. When, you put your work into something and somebody else's stuff pops up, it's because you're using something that's not, your loop. Now, you can do that. You can do it tastefully. You can edit the loop. You can make it, you can flip it, change it however you want. But when it comes to using loops, I personally try to avoid them. Part of it is because they really suck me in. I personally am not good at using loops and then like cutting the loop out. Like if I hear a loop that sounds really good, I just want to use it the way it is. And it's really hard to get out of that. But Mobile Music Pro says you generally want to modify the sample, even if it's changing BPM or changing pitch at the very least. I would agree with that 100%. Yeah. Modifying this, like changing the BPM or the pitch, to me, that doesn't do a lot unless you drastically change either one of those parameters. I feel like a lot of times your stuff's going to be really recognizable. But if you're just making a track for fun, I guess it doesn't really matter. But anyway, hey, those are my recommendations for sounds. My question of the day to you is, which recommendation are you going to check out? I'm curious to see which of these piqued your interest and which ones you're considering putting in your own music. I personally am going to recommend places where I've seen some really good percussion, because that's what my sample game is about, is percussion. And a lot of what I do as far as melodic stuff and harmonic stuff, I do with my own instruments and software instruments. So yeah. All right, you guys. We're going to transition really quick to another segment, and I want to drop some gems on you guys. I didn't put this in the title of today's live stream, but it's going to be great. So, in my last live stream, I talked about... Give me just a sec. Getting parched over here. Before I continue on, let me give you guys a chance to go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys are getting value out of anything I do, it really does help the channel to give this video a like. Tells the YouTube algorithm that this is content that you enjoy, and they'll continue to push it out to more people. It also helps fine-tune your suggested feed with more good content that is relevant to you. Content like this, content from other creators like this. So smash that like button, and that will help a lot. Thank you to those of you that are doing that right now. But anyway, back to the content. I want to talk to you guys about 4 simple producer tricks that will level up your beats fast. I mean fast. Like, this is going to be like really, really quick, you know, crash course. But these are things I'm really on this kick right now about how the smallest subtleties in music make your music just level up when it comes to quality sound. So let's get into some of that right now in Beatmaker 3. So I mentioned to you guys that I did the count challenge, and I finished the whole song, and I want to share with you guys some of the things I did specifically to make that track happen. Here we go. All right, so the first tip is reverse swells. And you know what? I should have pulled up a different project for this. Hang on just a sec. Here we go. If you guys haven't heard the new song we just finished called The Crown, it is up on my channel, but I haven't released it on Spotify yet. That is coming up, waiting on the album art, but we will get that to you. But that's what this song is. So there's a section right here where I add in this this swell leading up into this pre-chorus, and here's what it sounds like.
Walk a tightrope till we lose composure. Solid ground below us, one direction to get over. Get lower. Hold up while I break
right there.
Down.
I don't know if you caught that. There's a reverse swell happening right here. Let me solo just that and the track. Right there, and it clips off. So what that is, that reverse swell is just a vocal that I have chopped a little piece of, and then I've added a ton of reverb, and I flipped it, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. It's really not hard, so let's check it out. So what I did was, I had this vocal right here. I'll just solo the vocal. And I wanted to get a certain note out of this vocal. Here it is right here.
Hold up while I break some down.
Actually, that's a... Let's see, we're going to want to solo the effects channel. So here we go. Let's try that again.
Hold up while I break some down. Hold up, let me break some down.
So the down right here is the note I wanted.
Hold up while I break some down. Hold up.
Right there, down. So what I'm going to do is, you know what, let me save this as another project. There we go. Boom. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this channel. Okay. And I'm going to go into free grid. Change my grid to free. Let me do this where you guys can see it. There we go. All right. So I got my grid set to free. Let me zoom in so I can see the waveform here. And I'm going to take these, I'm going to take the scissors here. I'm going to go ahead and chop that section out. Let me zoom in a little more so I can see it. But when I said down, that's the note I want. Chop that out. All right, I don't need anything else here. Delete that and delete that. And this is the section we need. Down. Yeah, so down, that's it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a ton of reverb on this. So go to audio effects. We'll go to right here. We'll go to reverb. I'm just going to add a Pro R reverb. And we're going to turn this up. Decay rate, room size, make it sound a little farther, a little brighter. Okay, great. So we've got a reverb, just a really wet reverb, and I'm going to play for you what that sounds like. Sounds like this. There it is. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to record that to a new channel. So I'm going to create a new audio track down here. New audio track. And we're going to route the audio from the other channel to this one. So we press and hold on the channel, hit audio input. You know what, let's name this channel just so we know exactly where it is. We're going to call this one swell. All right. So we'll go back down here to the channel we just made, press and hold, audio input, internal, and we're going to hit this one called swell that we did right up here. All right, now this channel up here is now feeding down into this channel. So we're going to record arm it, and then we will go ahead and record it. Just press the record button. Cool. All right, so now if you look down here, there it is. They recorded it. Perfect. So now what we can do is I'm going to chop this. We don't need everything before that. You don't want to chop off your end though. And we're going to go ahead and click this, and we're going to reverse this, and that's going to give us our swell. So hit edit, edit sample, process, and reverse. So now if we go back, we solo this right here. You hit play. Right, so I forgot to unsolo this one. Here's what we got. Perfect. And what you're going to want to do is probably cut that a little shorter so you don't get that weird sound at the end. Boom. And you can have that go right into your next vocal. So this works really good with vocals. You can do it with other things as well. But that right there is how you do it. Reverse swell. Yeah, so we'll save that. And you can do that with anything. It really is, when I found that out, it was game changing. It really does add a lot. So I'll play you again. I'll just mute this one that we just did, and we'll mute this one as well. I'll play for you what that does. You know, it's a pretty big deal. You hear it and it's like, oh, that was dope. It's really subtle, but it was really, really clever. All right, here we go.
So we walk a tightrope till we lose composure. Solid ground below us, one direction to get over, get lower. Hold up while I break some down.
Now if I did that without that, let me mute that. It's kind of, you know,
composure. Solid ground below us, one direction to get over, get lower. Hold up while I break some.
I mean, that's a cool effect too, but it's not the same. So yeah, reverse swells, we got that covered. Next up is dead silence. Dead silence is super, super powerful. We underestimate the power of just complete silence in a track. It really does change things, and I'm going to show you a couple spots where I did that. So if you look over here, you'll notice a nice big gap right here in the track, and this is in the middle of my brother's verse. And you'll hear the track drops out and it's completely silent, except for his vocal. But
I couldn't pay back, so I pick my crown up and throw it back. Worthy is the one who's on the throne.
Yeah, that right there, like that changes the whole vibe. If I, you know, let's see. Actually, hold on. Let me undo that real quick. We will go. Yeah, here we go. Let's hear what that sounds like without adding a break. It's not at all going to be the same.
Paid, that's the debt I couldn't pay back. So I pick my crown up and throw it back. Worthy is the one who's on the throne.
Yeah, that's so much more boring. Nothing really changed. It wasn't a big change. If you go back, that silence in there.
Paid, that's the debt I couldn't pay back. So I pick my crown up and throw it back. Worthy is the one who's on the throne.
Completely changes the vibe. I did some of that in the track by itself. If you listen here, let's see. Yeah, at the end of my, at the end of this pre-chorus, there's a silent drop right in here. Right before the drop is a great place to use silence. And here's what I did right here.
We can't bear the weight of the crown. There's a place to lay those down. The saddest feet.
Yeah. So absolutely just gets completely silent right here. I'm going to show you how I did that in the track. Matter of fact, we're going to do that right now. Let's open it up. So I'm going to take you back to just the track, and I can show you what I did to make that happen. Let's save this as a demo one. Save as. I don't like to mess with my original project files when I'm demoing stuff because I don't want to mess anything up. Now I can play with this all I want. Okay. If you're getting value out of this, please go ahead and hit that like button. Like I said, it does a lot for the channel. It does a lot for you by fine-tuning your suggested feed with dope videos, some of which might be my own, and some of which might be other people that make similar content. So please do hit that like button. Let's go back to what I was talking about right here. So that that silence is right in here, I believe. Let's see. Oh, wait, no, back here. All right, so I'm gonna have a build up in here, and then you'll notice everything cuts out. So let's check it out. This is just the instrumental. Okay, we got a build up. This is the pre-chorus. Oh, let me switch the camera. Sorry, guys. Just dead silence before it goes into the chorus. If I didn't add that silence there, it makes the effect of going into the chorus less impactful. Dead silence sets up the listener for a big impact. So catch that one more time. Yeah. So, I had to do a lot of automation to pull that off. So obviously I'm just cutting off, if you look here, I'm cutting off these audio clips before they reach all the way to the next part. So you notice everything kind of cuts off right in here. And then for things like this that sometimes you get a tail, like a wet reverb that comes off, and when you just cutting off the note doesn't stop sound from happening. Sometimes you got to do a little extra to make a dead silence happen. So in the case of this swell, if I didn't do a dead silence, an automation, it wouldn't have worked right. You would have still had a little bit of sound there. So let me show you what I did. I'll click Track Automations, and I used the gain knob on a saturator. So right here, I'll go ahead and hit my audio effects. I just added a saturator, not because I wanted to saturate it, because I wanted to use this gain knob without having to use any of the faders in my mixer tab. So that's another hack right there. Use a saturator to get yourself a gain knob. And then I automated the volume on this. So it goes up, 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 up. And you notice right here, it cuts out. Now, I only need to cut out for this section right here, so why did I not just bring it back right here? Well, because this instrument has a bit of a tail on it, because it's got some reverb, and I know exactly how long that tail is going to last because I've listened to it, and I'm like, well, if I just go ahead and bring it back in right here, you're going to hear all that sound just come right back in when the beat drops, and that's not what we want. So I drag it out till about here, and that ensures that the tail has ended at that point. And that's why I do it that way. So yeah, you got it drops out here and comes back. You can also do this with a mute envelope, which I have done for a few different of these channels. So let's see, like Module Pro. I might have done mute on this one instead. Yeah, mute. So I used the mute for this one instead. So in this case, when you do a mute automation, down means the mute is off, which means you get sound. Up means the mute is on, which means you get no sound. Sounds kind of counterintuitive, but it makes sense. So I have it muting. Again, I have a tail on this because I have some reverb. I have it muted even going into the next pattern, and then I drop it back, put it back on a little bit later, and that's how I did that. So use automation to get your dead silences, because you're not going to get dead silence with instruments that still have a little bit of a tail on them afterwards. So automation is going to help with that. And I do plan to do a full video on how to automate in Beatmaker 3. It is a little complicated and sometimes can be cumbersome, but it is super valuable. It's really valuable knowledge to know how to automate in any program you're in when it comes to making music. So let's go back here. And so we've covered reverse swells and we've covered dead silence. Now the third one is, I call it Sidechained synth swells. Say that 10 times fast. I did that in this song as well. And this is, this is one of my go-tos to make a boring synth sound interesting. And it also adds a lot of drama to, whatever you're trying to put it over. So I used that specifically for this synth in Module Pro. If I just solo it and let's see, how do I want to do this? Module Pro. Yeah, so I've got it sidechained. I've got two different sidechains, but this is the one we're going to talk about really quick. Have it sidechained to a kick, but that kick is muted. So here, let me just solo this, and I'll play for you what this sounds like. It's kind of a pumping synth. So, before you ask, yes, it is supposed to sound all distorted like that. It's something we're actually going to talk about in a minute. But what I did is, this is just me just playing some chords just straight up with, and they're just straight chords. And I'll take off all the fancy effects, and you'll see what I really did here. It's really, really basic and boring. I'll take this off and this off. Now listen to what this really sounds like. Yeah, so the chords, I do like the chords, but this is a very boring synth. It's very basic, like a sawtooth, type of wave synth. And what I've done to add some grit to this portion of the track, which is what I was attempting to do, is add some grit and add some drama. What I did was I then took that and I added some vibro flange to get some, pitch wobble in there. I've talked about that before, but I did that using koala effects, and if I turn that on, yeah, so that adds a little bit of warble, and that adds some some flair, some kick right there. But then obviously I put an SV filter on it that cuts out some of the highs, and then I threw some overdrive on it. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second, but yeah, that just makes it completely distorted. And then auto pan, which makes it go between the two ears, and you'll notice that that's happening. And then what I did was sidechain. So let's talk a little bit about this. This is kind of my own jerry-rigged method of how to do a pumping sidechain in Beatmaker 3. So what I've done is I have right here in bank F1, I have a kick that literally kicks on every first beat. So it's just going boom, 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 boom. But what I've done is I've muted that. So let's go ahead and check out this bank in the mixer tab. And if you see here, well, it's not muted at the bottom, but look inside and it is not muted. Why is it not muted? Hold on. Hold the phone. Hold on. Oh, because I don't have the sidechain turned on. All right, hang on, you guys. Okay, this one. Let's go back to this bank. Ah, yes, I didn't mute it. I dragged the volume all the way down. So if you look here, you notice bank F1, the volume is dropped all the way down. But if you tap into the bank, the kick is still all the way up. So if you watch this, as I play this music, the kick is still going to be showing, you know, audio levels in here. Right, so you see it's pulsing on every beat. You just can't hear it. So that's because I've turned the whole bank down. But that signal is still being sent to this channel, which is Module Pro, because I've done a sidechain compressor. So I went in and I added a dynamics processor. It's just one of the built-in plugins here. You can add one by clicking that and hitting dynamics processor. And then I have it set to compressor, and I've gone into sidechain input, and I've selected in bank F1, I selected my pad, and that's the kick, and that's what I have it mapped to. All right. And then what I've done is I've set the threshold really low, so it's cutting a lot out of the synth. And I've got, you know, the release is about 60 because I want it to take some time to come back in. You can play with these knobs and you'll hear the differences in the sound. But what it's doing is this kick is causing the synth to duck down and come back. That's the whole purpose of this. And if that sounds a little complex, I do apologize. I noticed in the comment section, Benjamin Demers asked, do I ever use Koala Sampler? I don't. To be honest, I don't. I don't even have Koala Sampler. I know I've seen a lot of dope stuff come out of that when it comes to like Samurai Mode and all that. I do plan to check it out. I just haven't yet. But I do use Koala effects. And to be honest, I haven't been recommending Koala effects to a lot of Beatmaker 3 users specifically, because it doesn't seem to be playing nice with Beatmaker 3 very often. I'm noticing, you know, some inconsistency in the way it works. So I really was taking a gamble by using it this time around. But I just like the way it does what it does so much. Sometimes I just risk it. Yo, my little bro, Noble Amani, is in the chat. Welcome, bro. Good to see you, man. Yo, Noble is on this track, by the way, and his verse was pretty fire, if I do say so myself. So, yeah. All right. Anyway, back to it. So we were talking about a pumping EQ. Let me take this off of... Sorry, take this off of the broadcast. All right, cool. I did that as well with this white noise, this riser, or I guess a faller, or a fall. I have that pumping as well. This is what that sounds like if I solo it. In context, this is what it sounds like. Yeah. So I'm just using I'm just using a pumping sidechain with a kick that's muted to, you know, cause these effects to ramp up and go back down. If you need more help on how to sidechain, I know that can be confusing. I've done a couple videos on it, but check out my video called How to Sidechain in Beatmaker 3, and that will definitely help you get the basics down. I definitely actually cover this method in that video. So, all right. So we talked about sidechain synth swells. Next, the final, number 4, the fourth tip is distortion and overdrive. And that's just basically adding distortion to whatever it is you want to add it to. and it's pretty underrated if you ask me. It's a pretty killer effect, and it adds a lot of drama to whatever it is you're trying to put it on. So I used it on that synth that I played for you, this Module Pro right here. It's distorted, and it's definitely adding some, you know, some grit to this section. So if I played this section without this synth, it would seem pretty dull. I mean, not really, but I mean, it would seem duller. Just a little empty. It needs something in there to make it hype, and that's what the distortion I added on this did for me. And so if you go in here, I just use the stock overdrive in Beatmaker 3. I know there's other plugins out there, there's guitar pedal apps and all that stuff, but I just use a standard overdrive. I cranked the amount to 92%, and I turned the dampen down to 10%, and then I had to, you know, lower the gain a little bit because it gets pretty intense. But I did that on some vocals too, and I will actually share that with you guys on the other project file. I see a question in the chat box that says, what in-app purchases in Beatmaker 3 would I recommend? That's Raymond Gregory. Raymond, to be honest, anything, I'm kind of a low, most of the time I'm a little more on like the boom bappy lo-fi type vibe, chill hop type stuff. And so for that, I recommend in the Beatmaker Sound Store something like Soul Glow, which, you know, I don't know if I even got that off the Sound Store. I think it's in here. I'm pretty sure it's in here. Let's see, scroll down. I'm missing it. Maybe it's just not showing all of my purchases. I have their Epic analog basses and leads. I think I've used this for like one thing before, but everything sounds really nice. This one was good. I happened to get some of these on sale, but definitely if you haven't already, like, get the starter packs, starter pack 1 and 2, and then Thud Rumble. All 3 of those kits are free. I highly recommend those. I've actually used their Ashes drum kit for a full song for Stars. If you guys have heard my song Stars, those are the drums I used for that, was the free ones from Beatmaker 3. And then I have used the Beatmaker Grand Piano. I don't know if I would recommend that. It is cheaper than some of the other nicer piano apps you could download, but it's not authentic enough, in my opinion, to justify buying it when you can get something like Ravenscroft, or I've heard that Pure Piano is really good. I just haven't tried that one either. So, I mean, hopefully that helps. Anything that's like MSX2 or I am not sure, their stuff tends to be really solid. So, yeah, sorry if that wasn't helpful a lot. I know I haven't actually used a lot of their kits, but the ones I've had, they've been solid. And you can always go in and listen to any of these. If you own Beatmaker 3, they have, like, you know, you can demo some of this stuff in the Sound Store. So if you click on one that you're curious about, and you hit the audio demo, it'll play you something. So usually their sounds are really good, in my opinion. All right, we got the record demo pulled up. All right, cool. So we were talking about distortion and overdrive, and there was some of that used here. So I used distortion on this vocal, if I can get to it. Let's see, where are we at? There we go. I have one vocal right here, this little clip. The words are, "It's at his feet." And I have some distortion on there right after the drop to fill this space, leading into the chorus. So here's what that is. Oh, is something soloed? Yes, let's unsolo that. We're probably going to need to mute that. Yeah, let's mute that. And we'll mute this. All right, cool. That section is right here. Here we go.
The saddest feet.
Sorry, if you didn't catch it, here it is right here.
Weight of the crown, there's a place to lay those down. It's at his feet.
Yeah, so that is just a vocal of me saying, it's at his feet.
It's at his feet.
Yeah, and with a lot of reverb on it from the auxiliary channels. But that added some warmth to it, but also some, like, we're getting ready to have something intense here. Like, this is the preparation for it. And that's an effect, that's a common place to use. A good place to use distortion on a vocal is when you have dead silence and you're leading into something that's going to be big. And that's what I did. And I'll show you another instance where that was used in the track. But right here, silence.
It's at his feet.
Yeah, silence and then distortion, and then boom, we're into the chorus. That's a good place to use it. I also mentioned that we used some distortion. My brother Noble, he processed his own vocals for the most part here, and he added some distortion to one of his vocals right here. And right in this section is where he did it, and it actually sounds really good. It's another place where there's silence, and it's filled with some distortion. So here we go.
So I pick my crown up and throw it back. Worthy is the one who's on the throne. I cannot bear it on my own.
So he could have just had that be the same as the other vocals where, you know, it's just, you know, regular singing, no like distortion on it. But the fact that he threw that distortion on there added a lot, in my opinion. So distortion and overdrive, you can use this on instruments. I showed you how to use it on instruments earlier. You can use it on vocals. Obviously, you can use it on stuff like guitars and stuff. That's pretty common. But yeah. All right. Quick recap. The 4 tips, 4 simple producer tricks that will level up your beats fast. Reverse swells, using dead silence, sidechaining synth swells, and distortion or overdrive. Those are just 4 tidbits. You know, I've got more in the bank, but I'm saving those. They're coming. They're coming. I am trying to drop more gems every single live stream, but those are those we talked about today. My question for you is, which one was most helpful to you? Which one will you implement into your music? And yeah, let me know down in the comment section. I'd love to chat with you guys down there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm so grateful to those of you that made it and caught the tips earlier. Let me know what was most helpful to you in the comment section, and we will definitely hit this back again next week. Stay tuned, and expect some music dropping pretty soon. All right, take it easy. Until next time, creatives, go make something dope, and I'll see you in the next video.